What is up, guys? Kartaka here, and I'm here with another Digimon deck profile. Today we'll be going over the Hexeblaumon deck from EX-07. So without further ado, let's get right into the deck profile. The deck is super fun to play, and I'm just glad that we have a new Hexeblaumon support, and the deck works pretty well. I am waiting for a bunch of cards from BT18 to make this deck stronger, but for now it works as it is. But we'll talk about some other alternatives that we can run a little bit later. So for the Digimon's, we're running 5. We're running 4 of the Hyarimon and 1 of the Bukamon. So this one just gives you jamming, and these give you draw 1s if your opponent doesn't have if your opponent has no Digimon with evolution cards. So pretty good. Alright, so now let's move on to the actual main deck. So for the boss monster, we're running 4 of the Hexeblaumons. So this is the new SR from EX-07. It's the boss monster, and it's got security check +1 as well as Ice Clad. So Ice Clad is the new mechanic that this deck can use. So instead of comparing DPs, you compare the number of sources you have in your Digimon. So it's a pretty interesting way to conduct battle now. It's also really funny when you use your Snow Agumon with egg underneath to crash into your opponent's boss monsters. So it's pretty fun. But its actual effect is on evolution, you can trash any 4 digital evolution cards from your opponent's Digimon, and then one of your if your opponent has no Digimon with evolution cards, return one of your opponent's tamers to the bottom of the deck. So you can target any 4 sources on the board, which is really good in case your opponent has like a few small Digimon with 1 or 2 sources. And then being able to obviously remove tamers is also really strong. So I see a lot of potential with this card. And yeah, it's just a strong card overall. And then on your opponent's turn, if none of your opponent's Digimon with as many or fewer sources as this card can suspend. So they can't attack with it, and they also can't be targeted with their effects to rest and get a generate advantage. So it's pretty good against green decks in that case. So yeah, you're pretty much just freezing them in place, which is really nice. It would be nicer if it works on both turns, so your opponent can't block as well, but you know, it's pretty good for what it is. And most of the time they probably wouldn't be blocking anyway, because if they block, they'll probably die to Ice Clad. So next we are running 2 of the Digimon Aces from BT16. So its ability is on play and on evolution, you can de-digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon, and then none of the Digimon with 1 or fewer evolution cards can suspend until the end of turn. So this is pretty good. It gets a little bit of a leeway as well, because it doesn't have to have them have exactly 0 sources. So even if they have 1, they still get punished. It's just really good at just stopping your opponent's big attacks. And then on attack, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 1 or fewer sources. So this is obviously really strong removal as well. And so we are running 2 Digimon Aces. I think on BT18 though, I'm probably going to experiment the deck with the hybrid stuff, the blue hybrid stuff, with the Tommy and stuff, because they have the Ice Snow type, which does help boost the consistency a bit. But for now, I think Digimon is pretty good. I'll probably still run Digimon just because it's a good ace card. Next, for the level 7s, we're running 1 Omnimon, or Omegamon from BT5. So this one is just here for extra attack. You don't have to run it, but I think he's pretty good as a finisher, so I'm taking in 1. And the other card that we're also running is the Hexeblaumon Paladin Mode Ace. So this card is also really strong, and it helps work with the deck's playstyle a lot. So we are running 1. If you want to run 2, you can, but it does get a little bit clunkier. But I think running 1 of each is fine. These are kind of flexible slots. You can choose to run other stuff if you don't like the level 7s, but I like having options just to be able to either blitz or have an ace counterplay. So yeah, we're running 1 of the Paladin mode. Next, we're running 4 of the Hexeblaumon from EX-07. So it's got Ice Clad as well as the on evolution ability, which is to trash any 2 evolution cards from your opponent's Digimon. And then if your opponent has no Digimon with sources, you can unsuspend this Digimon. And then the Inherit is also really strong. If the Digimon has the Ice Snow type, then it gets Piercing as well as Security Check +1. So it combos really well with the Hexeblaumon because you'll be able to swing with 2 Security Checks and Piercing. So fun times all around. Next, we are also running 3 of the Zudomon Ace from BT4. So on play on evolution, you can trash 2 cards from your opponent's Digimon, and then afterwards you can return 1 Digimon with no sources to the hand. So this card's really good just because it helps strip sources and helps bounce, and especially in this deck when you're already stripping sources, if the Digimon they have on the board was from the previous turn, it's very likely that they just Digivolved on top of it this turn. So if they attack with it, you can just go into your Ace and bounce it back to the hand. Downside though is Ace cards are really not great against in a mirror match because they get stripped really easily. So if you're in a mirror match, just be careful when you slap down your Ace. But for the most part, it's pretty good. Sometimes if you're playing against a deck that doesn't strip sources, playing this for 4 costs is also super value as well, just because you can get rid of threat. And yeah, force cost aces are just really strong. Next, for the level 4s, we are running the Hexeblaumon from EX-07. So this is the card I was talking about. That combos really well with its level 5. So on evolution, you can trash the bottom 2 evolution cards from one of your opponent's Digimon. Then if your opponent has no Digimon with evolution cards, this card gets jamming as well as blocker. So the reason why this is really good is because you can Digivolve into this, attack, because it's a blocker now, so it's pretty safe. And then afterwards, you can Digivolve into the Hexeblaumon to unsuspend to do another attack, or if it ends your turn, you can use it as a blocker as well. And since it has Ice Clad, your opponent will be pretty scared to attack with it, just because if they do attack, you might just kill them by comparing sources. And it's not likely that they'll have a Digimon with more sources in it unless it's freshly put out from raising area. And in that case, you can go into your Vikemon Ace to Digivolve it. So yeah, it's pretty good. Next, we are running 2 of the Hexeblaumon from EX3. So this card's on evolution ability is to choose 1 evolution card under one of your opponent's Digimon and trash it. So you can choose any one. And then the inherent ability is your opponent's Digimon with no sources costs 1 more to Digivolve. So it's pretty good if they have a Digimon on the board. You increase the cost of the evolutions, so it does slow down the turns quite a bit. Just because if they have multiple Digimon on the board, they want to evolve, it's gonna cost a lot more, and they'll probably be focusing on 1 stack just because Digivolving it, they'll have a source underneath it, so then the cost will be back to normal. But they'll have given you 1 more memory, and in this current meta, 1 memory could make a huge difference. So if you're memory choking well, it should be pretty good. If not, if they have a setter, it's not too bad as well. But yeah, the 1 cost does come in pretty clutch at times. So we're running 2 of those. Next, we are running a blue hybrid package. So we're running 4 Kumamons. So, or Chakmon in Japanese it's called. So this can Digivolve on top of a blue tamer for 2 cost. And then on evolution, you can trash 1 of the bottom sources from your opponent's Digimon. So that is pretty good as well. Next, we're running 2 Blizzamons. So this can also Digivolve on top of a tamer for 2 cost. And then if there's a hybrid spirit card underneath this card, or a Tommy, then you can, when this card, you can choose one of your opponent's Digimon with no sources and it cannot attack or block. So these will probably get swapped out for the new blue hybrid spirit stuff, because they do have the blizzard type, ice snow type, which helps the deck out a lot to increase consistency. But for the current build, it's fine as well, just because we are running generic blue searches, so you can get these out pretty easily. But I quite like these; they're pretty good, and yeah. But the new ones just kind of power creep them out. But I think these ones are a little bit more memory efficient than the new ones, so there's also upsides to that. So running 4-2. If you don't like the Blizzamons, just because it might not be super consistent if you don't have a Tommy on the board, you can choose to run 2 more of the Hexeblaumons. But I quite like the Blizzamons. They come in pretty clutch just to stall out your opponent. And you can always evolve it for one on top of the Chakmon to stun as well. So yeah, pretty good. Next for the rookies, we're running 4 of the Gomamons. So Gomamon, at the start of your main phase, you can rip 1 source from one of your opponent's Digimon, and then afterwards this Digimon cannot be blocked. And the other ability is when this Digimon, the inherent ability is when this Digimon would be deleted, you can play a Gomamon from discard source, so it can kind of revive itself, which is pretty nice. I really like this card with the Hexeblaumon, because you'll be able to give it unblockable and you can just attack with it without any worries. And since you're jamming, you'll be pretty safe unless you hit into a security bomb, but for the most part, it's pretty safe. Next, we're also running 4 of the Blue Komon from the new set, so it's also got the Ice Snow type. And this is the main secret for the deck. On play, you can look at top 3, and then you can add a Hexeblaumon or a Hexeblaumon card with those in their name, as well as the Ice Snow type. So you can potentially grab 2, but most of the time you'll be grabbing 1, because we're not running too many Ice Snow types. If you hit into both, like one of each of these, you can kind of choose. But since we're not really running other Ice Snow types right now, you're not really increasing the odds with that. I was running the Sorcerermon before, but honestly it's not super great since we're not running the option card. So I decided to take this out and run the Hexeblaumon. But I think if you want to run a pure Ice Snow build right now, you can, but it's just a little bit more restrictive, and so that's why I'm using some of the older stuff. And for the last rookie, running 3 of the Snow Agumon. So its ability is just Ice Clad, and the inherit is on attack. You can trash 1 source, the top source of your opponent's Digimon. So if you put this in Raising, it's pretty good. If you don't have a Gomamon, Snow Agumon is pretty much the second best option you have. And those are all the rookies we're running. We're not running the regular 12 that I used to run, just because we are running a lot of Tamers, and a lot of your Digimon can Digibuff off Tamers. So we are going to be doing that. So first up is Joe. Joe is one of the MVPs for the deck. It helps you generate so much memory. It also makes your opponent afraid to push Digimon out from the raising area, because if they don't have a big turn, they probably just keep turtling, and that's fine as well, because we can just keep chipping at their security. So Joe's ability is on play. You can trash 1 source from your opponent's Digimon, and then on your turn, whenever a opponent's Digimon source is trashed, you can tap this Tamer to get 1 memory. So pretty much, if your opponent has a Digimon with source on the board and you play it, he's 2 cost, so it's super memory efficient, and he helps you just keep gaining memory every turn. So he's good. He's good. Next, we're running 2 Sora and Joe from BT5. So at the start of your turn, when your opponent has a Digimon with no sources, you get 2 memory. And then when you attack with a blue Digimon, you can just send this Tamer to trash 2 sources from the bottom of one of your opponent's Digimon. So this is really good for helping you gain source memory. Because if you stun lock your opponent's Digimon and they don't have a way to evolve them, you'll be able to just keep generating memory with this, and he's good for that. But I was running actually 3 before, but 3 is too many, because we have other ways to gain memory, mainly with Joe. And so if your opponent is just turtling in the area, in the raising area, then you won't get these off. And they cost 4, so it's a little bit expensive to hardcast if you need it, but they're good early turn just to have that pressure on the board and the extra source strips if your opponent does have a Digimon on the board. So we are running 2 for that reason. But actually, if you don't want to run these and you want to run 4 Tommies, that's fine as well. But I like the options just because some of your opponent's Digimon are not targeted by Digimon effects, so then you can't affect them with your evolution effects or Hexeblaumon, but you can still use your tamers to strip sources. Running 2 Tommies, so Tommy on play lets you strip 3 sources from the bottom of your opponent's Digimon, which is huge because it pretty much gets rid of most of their stack. And then the inherent ability is this card attacks until the end of your opponent's turn. One of your opponent's Digimon with no sources cannot attack or block. So this is one of the ways you use the lock. You know, this card used to be so good before. It's so good that I got limited to 1. I'm glad he's back, but yeah, he's still pretty good. And since we are running a mini blue hybrid engine, I think running him at 2 is justifiable. If you want to bump him up because he's so good, that's fine as well. And if you're running him at 4, you can probably adjust the ratios for a hybrid as well. You can probably go a little bit more crazy and run 4 of the Blizzamon. Deck is pretty flexible, and this is kind of like a preliminary build just before we get our stuff from BT18. Next, for the options, we are running 3 of the blue training. So this can help you search for tamers as well as Digimon. So we're running 3 of these. If you want to run memory boost instead, that's fine, but I quite like the trainings in this deck. And next we are running 2 Sorai. So Sorai lets you rip 4 sources from the top of one of your opponent's Digimon, and then until the end of opponent's turn, Digimon with no sources cannot attack. So pretty good. This card helps save me a few times. It helps me stall, which is really nice. But if you want to run 1 Ice Ball instead, you can. Or if you want to run something like I don't know. I can't think of another really good blue option right now. But these are flexible slots. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it. This deck is pretty fun. The main problem with it is it doesn't have too much protection, and that's why, you know, in this current meta it doesn't survive too long, just because even if it has Ice Clad, if your opponent's moving a Digimon out from the raising area, it can still find ways to defeat it in battle, or you know, you can just get hard removed with like deletion effects or DP deduction effects, or just any bounce effects. So yeah, that's one of the main problems we have with this deck, and running the hybrid engine kind of helps it out a bit because you'll be able to rebuild your stack with your tamers, which is a little bit faster than pushing it out again from raising area. But still, it is a little bit fragile. But if you are able to get your big turns out and just suppressing your opponent by locking them, this deck still has a pretty good chance against some matchups in the current meta. But that's pretty much it for this deck, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. This is Card Haku, and I'll see you guys next time.